everybody, welcome back to my channel and welcome to another video. So it's the end of the month. It's the time where we lose nails. It's also January, which is always the longest and hardest month. So actually I'm quite glad it's over. On to February, here we go. But this time last year was the exact date that I took my first ever long haul flight as cabin crew. So for that reason, I thought I'd do a little cabin crew travel themed video, and I realised I hadn't ranked all of my trips. So we're going to do that today. So if you've been following this channel for a while, first of all, thanks. But you will also know my situation currently, and you also most likely would have watched all of my travel videos or some of my travel videos. So for any of you that are new here, hi, my name is Shannon. I became cabin crew back in October 2022 when I started my training. I took my very first flight in December. My very first long haul flight was actually back in February 2023. Currently my situation is very different to that of last year. I'm actually currently signed off of work for reasons that I will go into maybe on another video if I'm feeling brave enough. I've sort of skimmed over it in a few previous videos. I'm currently weighing up whether cabin crew is for me or not. But saying that, I still love to look back on all of my trips, and there's been some good ones, so I thought I'd just rank them all in this little video for you. And I'm going to include some footage from my vlogs as well, so you'll get little snippets of that along the way. I'm just going to reminisce of the past year of my cabin crew trips, basically. So you'll find in this list that some of these destinations I've actually been to twice, but what I'm going to do is rank the trip as a whole. So it's not purely going to be based on the destination, although that is obviously the majority of it. But I'm also going to include the crew that I was there with, whether I was there on my own, whether I brought people with me, the actual flight process and how I was feeling when I was out there. So all of that is going to be involved in this ranking. I'm only going to include the long haul trips in this list just because they're the ones where I actually got to venture out. Plus, if I did include short haul, I would be here for a long time. So I'm just going to include my long haul trips. For reference as well, I'm obviously based in the UK, so long haul for me is anything outside of Europe pretty much. And I'm only going to really include the ones that I created vlogs out of, just because then you guys, if you've seen them, you can relate, you can sort of reminisce with me. But also I don't have footage of the other ones to include in here. So I do have some honourable mentions. There was a couple lovely places that I went and experienced and really loved, and I would love to go back to create a vlog for you guys. So I'm just going to mention them. My trip to Nashville in April and also my trip to Bermuda in May. So I wanted to mention Nashville because Nashville was probably one of my favourite places that I went to back in 2023. I loved the whole vibe. The crew that I went on the trip with were really lovely. It's on the top of my list to go back to because I'd really love to go and document my experience. We actually stayed in downtown Nashville, so if you know anything about Nashville, you know that that's the party area. They had live music during the day. In the evening we were looking at cowboy boots, trying cowboy boots on. We did some line dancing the following day. When I did the line dancing, I honestly had so much fun. I felt like I was in Hannah Montana. It was just a whole 24 hours of cowboy boots, guitars and chicken. I was living my best life. So I had to mention Nashville because I had the best time ever. And my other mention is Bermuda. I had such a lovely time in Bermuda, but I got severely sunburned. So the hotel that we stayed in as crew actually had a private beach that they owned. I think that goes for most hotels in Bermuda, to be fair. So we literally just got the bus down there and spent the entire day there. I did not put enough sun cream on and I got so sunburned. It was so bad. And I remember that flight home, all of us that were in the traveller section, like the economy section, we were all sunburned, like all of us. Our faces, our backs, the feeling of the uniform going against your skin. Honestly, I've never been in so much pain. We had to keep going back into the toilets to reapply it after sun. It was so bad, guys. But the beach we stayed on was beautiful. I would love to have ventured out more in Bermuda. So they're my honourable mentions. On to the main list. So there's 12 trips in this list, and I'm going to go from 12 to 1, obviously. And I want you guys to pause this for a second and make a comment based on the vlogs that you've seen, based on knowing me, what you think is going to be my #1 trip. Just have a pause for a minute, have a think, and no cheating. 12 to 1, let's go. When I tell you that ranking these was probably the hardest thing I've done in a long time, it was so difficult. Like, I haven't had a trip that I hated, ever. All of my long haul trips have been really good. So this was really hard for me to do. I feel awful that these ones are at the bottom of the list, but they had to be somewhere. So yeah, let's crack on with the list. Number 12 on the list is New York City, but it's the second time that I went. And if you watch my Central Park vlog, you'll know all about it. So I basically on this trip just walked around Central Park for like the entire day. And I did it on my own, and it was a beautiful day. It was very, very sunny. It was lush, but that was it really. I remember the flight being really, really busy. I didn't do anything with any other crew members, so that was just quite a slow day. But Central Park is beautiful, and I could have spent hours there, but because of that heat, I had to stop. I actually had a really nice time, but it's still at the bottom of the list because it doesn't beat the others. So New York City, when I went in August, is at the bottom of the list. 11th place is Washington, DC. Some of you are probably a little bit shocked by this one, to be fair, because when I was in Washington, I was pleasantly surprised. Me and one of the other crew members was like, are we gonna do anything? She's like, maybe. And then we're like, we'll just go for a walk. Bearing in mind this was in July as well, so we weren't gonna not take advantage of some American sun. So we were like, yeah, we'll go out. And we saw the Washington Monument, we saw the Lincoln statue, we saw the World War II Memorial, we saw the White House. Like, we saw everything. I definitely underestimated that trip, and I think it's because I went in with such low expectations, but I had such a good time. But we only went out and spent the morning having a little bit of an explore, and then for the rest of the trip I really didn't do anything. So for that reason, it's in spot 11. In 10th place is Boston, but the second time that I went. So the second time I went in August. Again, beautiful sun. I had the loveliest time, and I actually went with a girl called Chloe, and we met on the trip, and we got on like an absolute house on fire. She's also a fellow Disney nerd, so we spent a lot of time talking about that. We went to the aquarium there, which a brilliant aquarium, like absolutely humongous. If you're going to Boston, go to the aquarium. It was really, really good. I think because I experienced with her, I had a really, really nice time. But again, we just went out, did the aquarium, looked at the harbour a little bit, and then came back. There's nothing really bad to say about that trip. It just didn't beat some of the other trips. So that's why Boston's in 10th place. But I must say, Boston is one of my favourite places to go in America. In 9th place is my trip to San Jose in California. This was actually my second ever long haul, so I was still fairly new. I was actually originally going to put this in last place because I remember the trip being quite flat, but then I looked into like my story highlight on Instagram and was like, actually I did more than I thought we did. First of all, the flight, I remember it being half empty on the way out, and then like maybe just over a quarter full on the way back. The flight was a dream, so I had to put it higher for that reason. The crew on this trip were really, really lovely as well, but it was my first ever trip to California, so that was something. On this trip we actually did quite a lot of things. We took a walk into like downtown, and we visited this cafe called K-Caf, which was beautiful, proper American, but actually so Instagrammable. We also went to a place called Santana Row, which was like a town centre, I guess. That was really good as well. And then I forgot all about this section, but we went up to this open space reserve area, and apparently it was a really good view for the sunset, and it was beautiful. Like the sunset was so gorgeous, and we were having such a laugh up there because again, it was in February and it was actually freezing. Throughout the day I was just wearing maybe like a flannel. It was actually really warm, but when we got to the top of this reserve, it was freezing. As soon as that sun went down, and the wind up there, because we were so high up, it was so cold, and we were cracking up. We were just trying to make the best out of a bad situation, to be honest. But then for some reason, I can't even remember if it was because of signal or just because there was nobody wanting to do that drive up to the top, because the drive up to the top of this reserve was actually like disgraceful. Like it was so steep. We were bricking it the entire way up there. We spent ages trying to get an Uber back, and nobody would pick us up, and we ended up having to wait with like the team, you know, staff members for the reserve, and they were like giving out their jackets to us because we were so cold, and it was honestly so embarrassing, but we were cracking up. So yeah, that's why San Jose had to come up. I almost forgot how good San Jose was as a trip. Okay, 8th place, we're going back to Boston. This was my first ever long haul trip, so literally a year ago I took this trip, so you can imagine it was freezing, absolutely freezing, but I was so excited to go. Again, around that time of year, there was just nobody on these planes, and I remember crew saying to me, I know this is your first flight, but you don't see this often, like the planes are never this empty. But the plane was half empty, which was lush, and the crew were really nice. Some of you have probably seen this video and you remember exactly how I was feeling on my first ever long haul. I was so terrified. I got very overwhelmed at being somewhere on my own and exploring, and it not really being how I thought it was gonna be. It got better after that, like that was just my first time, and then it got worse. But anyway, my first time was really hard, but I ended up doing some really cool things. I started the Freedom Trail and then got overwhelmed, so I stopped with that, but I managed to see lots of statues of like George Washington and Alexander Hamilton, which I was buzzing about because obviously I'm a musical fan. And then I walked around like Boston Common, which was really lovely. On my way back, I walked past this theatre and it was saying that they were showing the touring version of Hamilton, and I was like, no, what are the odds? So I went back after freaking out and looked up if there was any tickets, and there was. So I first went in Boston, got myself a lobster roll, and then went and watched Hamilton and was like sobbing because I couldn't believe that I was watching Hamilton in Boston. It was in an opera house as well, so mind blown by that, because I just walked in and was like, bless my heart, like little February 2023 me. I was like, what is going on? I can't believe that was a year ago. We're turning it up a little bit. Turn it up to 11. If you know what that's from, comment. Someone's got to know. At least my sister will know. 7th place, we have New York City again. And it was the first time that I went. So I went in March. And obviously this is the first time I'd ever been to New York. I remember the flight being very, very busy. Also, most of the crew didn't really want to do anything because New York, as you can imagine, is a flight that is happening all of the time. Crew members have gone to JFK more times than they can even count. Everyone on that trip had been before and they didn't really want to go out and do anything. But there was one other girl that wanted to go out with me. Her name was Hannah, and we literally had the best trip ever. It was so good. We went up to the top of the rock, which was a bucket list thing for me. Seeing that view was unbelievable. We also walked around Times Square. It was nice to be able to say that I'd done it, and it was very cool to do it. We also went to Grand Central Station, but to top it off, one of the best things I did in New York was visit Ellen Stardust Diner, and that was so cool. And if you haven't been, I think you can go for breakfast, lunch or dinner, but all of the staff members and the waiters and waitresses, they are trained performers, and they're all basically waiting for their next break on Broadway. And in the meantime, they're singing their hearts out and serving you pancakes in Ellen Stardust Diner. We just sat there eating away at our pancakes and just listened to all of these musicals. They did Disney as well. It was so good. New York was a very good trip. So anyway, yes, New York, you're in 7th place. I wish I could put you higher, but I can't. 6th place, we have one of my most recent ones, which was Rio de Janeiro in South America. I had very highly anticipated Rio. I was so excited to go. It was my first ever time to South America at all, so that was like a bucket list tick for me. I remember on the flight there was a few things that went wrong, something to do with catering or something, and it was just so much stress. Maybe that's why it's a little bit lower. But the crew was really, really fun. Like, I literally met my crew mum and dad on that flight, and then we had the best time ever. And the nice thing about this trip was that everybody did things as a group. Like, the majority of crew actually went out on this trip, which was really, really nice. Like, even the pilots as well, we all went out together as a group. The tour I did was insane. To be able to see Christ the Redeemer, like, I've actually seen Christ the Redeemer. Crazy. The food in Rio was beautiful. I haven't actually spoken too much about the food in any of these so far, but Rio was it. Wow, the restaurant we went to in Rio was so, so good. I didn't even vlog that either, so I'm just gonna have to go back. What a shame. But yeah, Rio all round was such a good trip. Seeing Christ the Redeemer, seeing Sugarloaf Mountain, spending all of that time with the crew, being on a boat, seeing all the sights from land and from sea. The crew was amazing. The food was amazing. Just all round great trip. So Rio makes 6th place. 5th place, we're into the top 5 now. 5th place is San Francisco. I went here with mum. We went in September and we went to Alcatraz, which is crazy, like bucket list tick. And we also went and saw a street that was called Townsend Street, which is my surname, so that was cool. We also went to Cheesecake Factory, which was amazing. Obviously I did the whole trip with mum, which was amazing, and it could be higher. The only reason it's not is because the stress that came with taking somebody on staff travel was next level. It was a lot, so that's the only reason why it's not higher, but we did some amazing things on that trip. Pier 39 was my favourite place when we went to San Francisco. I loved Alcatraz, but obviously that's a whole different vibe. That was such a good tour to do. But Pier 39 is where I found like my little mini home in San Fran. I loved it. The whole vibe of it was giving almost a Disney kind of feel. Like, it was all very colourful. The seals were very cute. Just all round, it was a very, very good trip. Just the stress of the whole experience of staff travel brought it down just a little bit. Into 4th place, we have LA. This is the time when I went in April, and I went with Holly. If any of you guys remember, we did all sorts on this trip, and what made it was having Holly there. Holly had been to LA a few times, so she was my tour guide for the trip. Just to be that far away from home but still be with your best mate is actually crazy. But we did so many good things. She took me all around Hollywood. We saw the Hollywood sign. We went to the Hollywood Walk of Fame. We went to the Warner Bros. Studios tour, which was amazing. And we had so many laughs. We were just cracking up, dancing around on Venice Beach. There's not even much to say about that other than it all round was just a really nice trip. And the reason it is so high is because I experienced it with Holly. And obviously Holly's already crew, so I didn't have to deal with staff travel. We were just on that trip together, which was really nice. So I didn't have the stress of bringing somebody, but I was still able to be with somebody that I cared about, which was like the dream. That's why LA in April is so high up. I also really like LA. I feel like LA is one of my favourite places to be. I tried my first ever grilled cheese and it was so good. Oh, now I really want one of those. Now what I've done is I've thought about that, and now anything I have for lunch now is not going to satisfy me. Don't you just hate it when that happens? Ugh. I'll figure something out. Anyway, that's why LA's in 4th place. Top 3. So 3rd place, drumroll please, is Cape Town. I bloody loved Cape Town. Cape Town in South Africa. Also, this was the first time and the only time I have stepped foot in South Africa or Africa at all. So straight away it was already very, very exciting. I did go back in March, so I don't really remember too much about that flight, but I suppose that's a good thing. Couldn't have been that bad. But the trip itself, we did so many things. Like so many things. I outdid myself on this trip. From the minute I arrived to half an hour before I was getting ready to leave again, I was busy. As soon as we got to Cape Town, we went out for a meal. We had some drinks. The crew were great. I tried South African steak. Oh, it was so good. And then the second day, we went and saw like Seal Island, Chapman's Peak viewpoint, which was gorgeous. There was many highlights of that trip, but Chapman's Peak specifically was just beautiful to look at. We also went to visit the penguins at Boulders Beach, and if you know me, then you know my favourite animal is a penguin, so I was honestly loving life. It was so cute. And then to finish that tour on that day, we went to like a wine tasting thing, and I'm not a wine drinker, so I gave it a go. I was not a fan, but I tried my best. The group of girls that I went on this tour with were just brilliant. They were like the most perfect girls group of friends. It was so good. And there was one crew member that stuck with me the whole time pretty much. We went back to Table Mountain the day after. Being up there was just beautiful. Like we were just on top of the world, like, quite literally. It was crazy. The views were amazing. And then to finish it off, I went and paraglided off of Lion's Head. Why don't I enjoy this job again? The whole day was amazing. Oh, I forgot as well, we also went to like a South African themed restaurant, and the staff there were like dancing and singing their way around the whole restaurant. That was awesome. My next 2 in this list will make this make sense, but Cape Town as a place was probably my favourite new destination. There's so much to do there. The food is beautiful. The people are beautiful. It's just the best trip ever. However, it didn't make 2nd or 1st place, so what did? And you know which 2 are left? We have 2 Disneylands. 2 Disneylands on our hands, guys. We have Disneyland Shanghai and we have Disneyland California. So which one is going to be number 1? This was the hardest decision I've ever had to make. And I know that sounds really over the top, but my God. The thing is as well, you can't even compare them. You actually can't. They're so different. Oh, are you ready? 2nd place, we have Shanghai Disneyland. And I'm saying Shanghai Disneyland because I didn't actually really venture out into Shanghai. So my trip was to Shanghai. The flight actually was okay. The only thing was is it was long. It was so long. That part where you were awake and you weren't on your break at that time. I've never worked so hard to stay awake. We were just giving out all the snacks, all the drinks, making sure that we were keeping ourselves busy, otherwise we were just gonna fall asleep, I swear. But on the way back, 14 hours. That's how long that flight was. It was crazy. But like I said, I didn't actually venture too much out into Shanghai itself. I just went to Disneyland and I had the best day ever. I know I've said that a lot, but it was so good. The shows were amazing. The staff, I know they're Disney cast members, so they're always going to be lovely, but they just seemed extra lovely. I really loved it there. The only downfall is that it was raining a little bit, but it actually made the whole trip a little bit more interesting. We got there from an hour before open and we stayed till the fireworks at the end, till close. We had the best time. I met Donald. That meet and greet though, the Donald and Daisy one was actually really good and I was very excited for that one, but the first meet and greet we did, which was with Mickey and Minnie, oh, it was so good. It was so nice. And I remember going on Soarin', the ride. Obviously they had the parade, which was good, but there was one show, Mickey's Storybook Adventure. That was what the show was called. And wow, it was so good. Some of the Mickey treats we ate, the Mickey shaped treats that we ate whilst we were there as well. Wow. Oh, it was so good. I still can't believe I've even been there. But yeah, 2nd place to Shanghai Disneyland. I'm so lucky. I feel so blessed that I even got to go there. But with Shanghai Disneyland being in 2nd place, that means that in 1st place we have Disneyland, the Disneyland. So LA again, basically. I went to LA at the very end of February, so still quite early on in my cabin crew life. This was the first time I'd ever been to LA. I remember being so excited because it was the Disneyland. The trip was to LA, but I didn't go anywhere. in LA. I remember walking past the rest of the crew. Because of jet lag, when you're going that far afield, you're awake early in the morning because you've gone to bed quite early. So they were up really early having like a hotel breakfast, and I walked past them and they were cracking up because I literally walked past them with a pair of ears on, my Disney lounge fly on, a Spirit jersey, and I was like, bye guys. But I literally had the best time, and I'm so glad I did it. And I actually did the whole day on my own from open to close. And over in California, they do not do things half-hearted. They didn't shut that park till like midnight. That is the longest time period I've ever spent in a Disneyland park ever. And obviously they have 2 parks there, so experiencing both was just unbelievable. I was just go, go, go. Like, I was going on every ride that I wanted to go on. I was visiting all the characters. I was watching all the shows. I cried like 3 times, I think, because I couldn't believe that I was there. The Disneyland. Walt Disney was actually there. I loved every second of it. And I still can't believe that I went. I've just remembered that I did the Guardians of the Galaxy ride, which is like Tower of Terror, but the different theming. Tower of Terror in Disneyland Paris, we all know. Maybe you don't. But if you do know me before this video, then you'll know I'm obsessed with Disneyland Paris. Disneyland Paris is like the home park for me. We go a lot, and Tower of Terror is my ultimate favourite ride. And then obviously in California it's rethemed as a Guardians of the Galaxy ride. It was so cool. And Fantasmic's proper nostalgic to me as well, because I haven't seen that since I was 12, and I would have been sat watching Fantasmic with my mum, my sister and my dad in Walt Disney World in Florida. That's the last time I've seen that. I was just there like bawling. I'm getting emotional now because I just remember exactly how I was feeling. What a time. But yeah, California, LA, my Disneyland trip in February is in the #1 spot. If you guessed it right, round of applause. But honestly, if you guessed any of those trips, I'm not shocked, because all of them could have easily been at #1. It's so hard to compare all these trips because they're all so good for such different reasons. So yeah, that was really hard to do. If any of you guys have been to any of these places, please comment your highlights and your favourite things. And even if you've gone to a trip that wasn't in here, recommend them to me, please. I'd love to just sit and chat travel with you guys all down in the comments. Talk to me about your favourites, your likes, your dislikes. Let's have a chat. Thank you guys for watching this video. I hope it hasn't been too much waffle from me, and I hope you've enjoyed reminiscing on my time as cabin crew, or my first year as cabin crew anyway. Whether I'll go back to it or not, I don't know. Words of encouragement are appreciated. Thank you in advance. But anyway, I love you guys so much. Remember to like and subscribe, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.